Hi, friends. I'm Dawn, like morning, and I'm going to do a quick review of what we read yesterday in chapter 1 of Hersey's Hiroshima. We are going to do a deep dive on the discussion map and let you kind of feel what Hersey wanted you to feel. The name of chapter 1 was A Noiseless Flash, and that is the silence before the catastrophe. Chapter 2 is called The Fire, and I think the best tool that you could use, and I'm going to actually get rid of you for a second. No, that's not what I wanted. Hi, folks, as I figure it out. Yeah, I want you to be this one. All right, so I'm gonna turn you off. No, okay, there it is. And I'm gonna make you bigger. Hopefully, maybe not. There it is. Okay, welcome to my world. The first thing that I want to talk about is if we're going to solve, no one asked you, dude. If we're going to solve the problems of the world, and Hiroshima has been on my mind the past week because of the state of our nation. If we are going to have any type of future as a human species, we need leaders who lead with compassion, diplomacy, equity, and justice. I use the chevrons because chevrons mean lots of things. You see them on uniforms for the military, right? It could be up or down. Up is unity. Down is like building the foundation. This is how mariners learn to navigate. It's also code for, computer science engineers. And if you want to create connection, you would find reasons to agree first and foremost. And if you want to create more conflict, you are going to be breaking all the norms of humanity and making a lot of people sad and angry. It creates conflict. So when we're talking about nuclear war, what discussion as I'm reading, can you prepare, review, read, participate, link, state, or support? And then notice that the directions continue, chevrons continue, right? So we're going to either agree or disagree, but even when we disagree, we don't have to tolerate the other person's point of view as the only conclusion or justification. And my little things are blocking I'm going to move it, like my name and my title and all that. So I'll move it up. You can see the bottom, right? What I try to tell secondary learners is two things can be true at once. You can disagree with me. We can have totally different opinions on things. And that can be true, right? But just because you would agree to disagree doesn't mean that you are tolerating. It just means that you're tolerating the other person's opinion. It doesn't mean that focus is terrible, that you're accepting their views and their conclusions and justifications, anybody's opposing positions, they're allowed to have them. So why are we in a world where we have culture wars and, these call to actions where we're literally in a war that Congress didn't approve? We are taking imperialistic colonizer actions. Of course, it's the United States and Israel, because honestly, neither of them are a nation state in the sheer fact that they are not natives to the land that they live in. Facts over feelings, right? So, I would ask students to remember what's the point of having a discussion in the first place, right? And if we're going to disagree, okay, so the rules of a secondary classroom, college or high school for me, are you face your peers, you make eye contact, and you participate, okay? Discussions are pleasant tone, easy to hear, they're sharing of opinions with supporting facts and reasons, giving positive, supportive comments, and staying on topic. But as you know, the world is in a state of conflict, right? Instead of leaders who know how to have a discussion, we have leaders who want to create total anarchy, so that you are so exhausted and so confused that you can no longer tell what is going on. Sound familiar? So if you want collaboration, this is what it sounds like. Okay, and I'm going to pick this up and read it and make all the other ones bigger, because I've learned how to use my tools. I don't have the audience I normally have, because most times students have to be in my class to graduate. I don't need my pretty little board anymore. There's only 2, and why do you have it? Bye. That's my lazy Susan. My kids have already said, Mommy, I don't want you to die, but when you do, can you, it's not going away. Okay, so I'll just leave. I'm not going to spend too much time. Discussion, collaboration versus chaos. Okay, they want this because it is gorgeous. So what does a productive talk look like? And this is how I would score students. It offers position on the topic. It makes relevant comments. It uses evidence to support the position. It points out contradictions. It recognizes irrelevant comments and develops an analogy or asks a clarifying question, uses active listening skills. And that's how I grade students. And then, of course, there's the non-productive, which, frankly, this is Caroline Levitt. This is Cash Googly Eyes Patel. This is Pam, do whatever Trump says, Bondi. This is Humpty Dumpty. This is Chuck Schumer. Chuckles. I call him Chuckles. The leaders are not being productive. They're causing chaos. They're not paying attention to what the people want. Nobody wanted to go to war. Nobody wants this. But if you look at history, if you look at 2002, when my first baby was an infant, I had all the time in my hands, and I love politics. I was a poli-sci major in the beginning of college, and also broadcast journalism, which is kind of why this new YouTube channel and information that I'm sharing makes sense for me. And I remember the PR person for Israel who literally mapped out in 2002, I don't remember his name, I'll have to put it in the show notes or something, but what is happening today? Like, you showing up in other people's land, and if you look at an atlas, if you know what an atlas is, and you look at an atlas prior to like the past 70, 80 years, you're going to see the whole territory where Israel now is called Palestine. And I'm a Jew who is totally against everything that Bibi Netanyahu is doing. Bibi is a big baby and a brat, and he doesn't care about America. He calls us goyams, and they use America like a puppet show. And they are doing these, causing all this chaos so that you don't pay attention to the real problems of the world. They want to interrupt your thoughts. They want to give you irrelevant information. They want to monopolize your attention and your time, and they're constantly in personal attack mode. Right? So if we are going to have productive leaders, we have to change the way that we lead. And I'm here to offer an alternative. And if you go to the bottom of, now I've got 4 things up. This is lovely. Turn you off. Things are delayed. I wonder if I have too many screens open. That is not the view I want. But you know what? I love that I'm learning my tools. That is not good enough. And I'm going to learn the commands soon, but right now I'm just all about the mouse. All right, I really, really want my blog. So I need to get rid of you and do the side by side. There we go. Okay. At the bottom of my blog about Hiroshima and how the body survives, how life, even after the bomb, life continued to survive. And knowing the strategies that get real learning into the brains of people it's so important now, because we've moved the clock on the ticking time bomb of what nuclear war is. And right now, the war between their allies, US and Israel are allies, whether we like it or not, the people in charge, that's how it's going. They are trying to be a superpower at the expense of everybody else. And if we learned anything from Hiroshima, it's that life survives after the trauma, but the trauma stays in your body. So now that Israel has finally been penetrated, because the Iron Dome is starting to fail because they're running out of munitions, and Humpty Dumpty's freaking out because he cannot find the munitions that he needs to keep the war going. Eventually they're going to run out, and the weapons that Iran has invented have the ability to penetrate the Iron Dome. And then all these countries are stepping up and saying, we all have arms, we all have nuclear arms, and we're back to like the same place we were. And that bomb, make no mistake, it killed 140,000 people in an instant. Do you know what those numbers are? The biggest, best strategy that I like to do, I do this with every first chap that I've ever taught of any novel in any curriculum. I honestly didn't give it to my private school kids, because once we got to novels, I was kind of over the whole giving my best thing, because they had defeated me with their idiocy and I just was showing up. But I still talked about the strategies, but I didn't go full on like I am on my website now. So this is an interactive on my website. You can go to it and it will help you review chapter 1. I'm going to move on to chapter 2 later on today. I have to cut this short. My kids are on spring break, so the house is not what it normally is. And I have people coming here at 1, so I can't do the reading of chapter 2, the fire. But I do want to direct you to the vlog, the blog about Hiroshima, and this somebody wanted, but so then. And what you can do is, and that's that's a summarization strategy. And the thing about summarizing that most people don't understand is it's a high order thinking skill. It's not just name this, cite that. It requires you to take all the information from what you read and put it into a short, meaningful sentence or paragraph. So I love the SWBST. If you go here and you click on them, you will see an interactive pull up. And this is a great strategy for anybody in any environment to get students and learners to learn how to summarize what they're reading. So if you did the SWBST, you could take one of the 6 characters from chapter 1 and really dive into their like summary. So who is the story about? You could talk about Miss Toshiko Sasaki. She's the personal clerk. You could talk about the doctor who got pinned like on top of his hospital over the river. But you name a survivor that Hersey follows, you put that there. And then wanted, what did they want or need? Well, if we go with Miss Sasaki, did I say it right? It doesn't want to stay open for me. I hope this is coming through. I'm getting a delay, but she wanted to survive and find her family, right? So it's redirecting you back to the text to find what each character's goal, desire, or purpose is. I did some acting in my 20s, and I used to use this to try and get into whatever character I was reading for. But this is the conflict. Like, what's the conflict or the obstacle? What stood in the way of her? What happened at 8:15? Well, the bomb fell without warning because the warnings were over and they were moving on to the rest of their day. And then I'm sorry, I needed this so is the what did they do about it? And well, her response was she crawled from the rubble and helped strangers. So that's also the action she took. And then the last thing is what happens as a result. You would click on that. You could put your answers in here. And then she became a witness whose story the world needed to hear. If you click on show example, this should pull up the final summary. Sorry, back it up. So I wrote a final summary. If you're teaching students how to read, write, think, comprehend is a process. It's a science and an art. Okay. So Miss Toshiko Sasaki, and all I would do is put all of these together. A young personal clerk at a tin factory worked at a tin works factory in Hiroshima, wanted only to survive, but the blast. I'm sorry, I'm reading this because I don't even like the font I used. I might have to simplify that. Hold on. So a young personnel clerk at a tin works factory in Hiroshima wanted only to survive the blast and reach safety. But at 8:15 a.m. on August 6, 1945, one atomic bomb destroyed her city in a single flash. So she pulled herself from the wreckage and, though gravely injured, began moving toward others who needed help. She then survived. Then she survived, and her story became one of 6 humans' faces Hersey gave to the 140,000 that were lost. That is a summary of chapter 1. And I'm excited to read chapter 2. It takes about an hour and I didn't want to rush. So join me later for that live. I will post it everywhere that I am sharing these days, which is not all the places I used to because I have shut down the Broligarchy and it is going really well. My new love is Claude. Claude is to ChatGPT like the card catalog is to the librarian. Does that make sense? Chat is old. It does nothing that it besides corrupt, right? The people in charge, the push for more money, more autonomy, or less autonomy for us, right? Less jobs, like the regulations that need to happen so that these big tech bros don't literally ruin the world are coming. And that's why the patriarchy is fighting so hard with their very last breath. They are fighting because they know they're losing and they are desperate to keep their power. But I can tell you, I am a trafficker of truth, and I am asking everyone I know to pick up your torch, find your torch, light your torch, because the world may go medieval if the bros in charge continue. How can I say it any better? And how do we rise up? I'm going to continue to talk about this. Chapter 1, a noiseless flash. That's the silence before the chaos. Chapter 2 is where the actual chaos begins. And the fires that happen in chapter 2, a little tease here. A lot of people die from those fires, not the bomb, but actually the fires that happened because of the bomb. I'm here most weekdays in the middle of the day doing these lives with my whole heart involved. And I'm asking you to dive into your lover above energy so that we can take our world back, our country back, our cities back from these extreme regime bros who have created a toxic playground for the wealthy elite to thrive while the 8 billion of us struggle. They want you in struggle. They want you dumb. They want poison in your food. They want total supreme power. And this isn't white supremacy. It's white narcissism. And I keep saying that so we all call it what it really is, because they may think they're supreme because they have a high income. But I know a lot of wealthy people who are super dumb, super disrespectful, and super clueless about real world craziness. Yeah, they call us the crazies, like the crazies. Like, pick up a mirror much, boys? I wonder. Lover above. See you later. End stream. Yes, I'm sure. End stream. It doesn't want to end. It doesn't. Maybe it wants me to play some music. I keep hitting end stream and I can still see it is still. Yep. You know what songs I still have in my head? Like Styx. Because I was writing about the river Styx last week. And then I got all those songs. I know you feel these are the end of time. It's not closing.